Yeah, I know we hear recap every once in a while, and I think that that is a foreign concept to a lot of investors. Maybe you could talk about that period of time, who you were bringing into the table, getting alignment to do, recapitalize the business.
Sure. Well, to bring you back, so and again, I started it myself. I had a venture firm originally that was sort of dabbling in venture. Really, they were sort of a quasi institutional investor, but they didn't really invest like that. But they committed to do more investment. Based on that commitment, we went and made hires and took office space, and then they pulled their commitment. So it was a
Oh,
verbal commitment, not a hard commitment.
yeah.
And so I was like stuck. I mean, this was right when the dot-com crash was happening. I had no cash on my balance sheet. Like it was bleak. And so I don't know if I told you this, but so I'm for night like I 60 days. It was frantic, like 7 a.m. to 2 a.m., 7 days a week, trying to raise money, trying to save the company. And it came down to a Friday afternoon. And this was, I'm not exaggerating. This is when I hit the wall. I did every game I knew how to play. I stretched payables, whatever. But this Friday we were gonna crash. And that's when payroll was due. And I woke up that morning with $0 in my bank account. The thing is, I was getting close with new investors, but it wasn't closed. So I literally, and I had a previously scheduled full team meeting that day. There was maybe 45 people at the time. And I literally prepared two speeches. What would I say to my team if we saved the company? What would I say to the team if we lost it? And I'm not exaggerating, man. 15 minutes before that company crashed, like padlock on the door, bounce paycheck, crashed, I received a wire transfer from new investors. And so I walked in, bloodied, exhausted, sweating, and said, we saved the company. And it was very difficult, honestly, but in retrospect, it was a real blessing. The only reason I say that is, I'll talk about the successes that we had, but very often in these journeys, it gets close. It's a hard, difficult process to build something out of nothing, and to a degree, it could have gone the other way easily. Could have gone the other way.
Yeah,
But anyway, the recap question. So I brought in new investors at that time, individual private investors, and we were getting a lot of opportunity by 2005. So they came in 2000. By 2005. We had real momentum. The business at that time was maybe $25 million in revenue, something like that, 30. And we achieved some leadership position. We were making money. And so we were getting a lot of knocks on the door from private equity and some strategic buyers. So we actually retained a banker and we were considering a sale. And at the 11th hour, our existing investors said, why in the world would we let this beautiful company go to someone on either coast? What if we kept it here? And that sentiment was actually led by notable Detroiter Dan Gilbert. So Brian Hermelin was also a partner of mine, and Danny were very close. And Dan stepped in at that point, and we did a recap. So definition, what that means is if you get an investment, let's say someone put $60 million of an investment, that money goes into the company to allow the company to grow. A recap is where some shareholders are selling their shares to somebody else, and cash is, instead of going into the company, is staying outside of the company. And so we did a $66 million recap where $66 million of shares traded hands, but no money was put into the company. That money was allowing some of the investors and some team members to take some chips off the table and to get ready for round number two. So that's what we did in 2005.
Thank you for explaining that, because a lot of founders can get pressure from existing investors that have been along for a while that want some liquidity. They know there's they think there's an opportunity on the table, and they can really force an entrepreneur's hand. So a recap is a great way to give them the liquidity they want, keep the entrepreneur running the business. Or maybe you're bringing in new management team at that point, and now you have a new set of investors that maybe have a longer horizon for their return.
I'd like to just add real quickly that I think it's actually really healthy for entrepreneurs too, because that's when I'd already had some successes. But many entrepreneurs, like 99.9% of your net worth is tied up in your startup, and it's an illiquid asset. And so once you achieve some success, every risk you take, you think you're like betting your family's future on it.
Yeah.
Every dollar you invest is a dollar of less food for your family's dinner, and that actually becomes unhealthy. Whereas someone who used to have a high risk profile tends to become more conservative. And so like in that case, I did take some capital off the table as part of that. And it was really healthy because it allowed me to be a more effective leader. I was rewarded for some of the work that I did so far. I was able to diversify some equity outside of the company and still had plenty of excitement going forward. So I think that not in all cases, but in many cases, it's actually a really healthy thing. It allows entrepreneurs to be even more effective for that next leg of the race.